And so when there's something that is hegemonic, something that is dominant, there's a power that is blinding or overtaking other aspects of your being, I think it is a form of coloniality, and it is a form of domination. And so it happens in every single body also. In academia, it's important to talk about specifics, and it's needed, but I don't understand why we can't do both or also address like things in three different planes. So there's, when you talk about states, the colonization, post-colonization of states and all of that, but then there's also, race and women and all of that, and sexuality, but there's also in the body, emotional colonization.
Welcome, everybody. As you know, I'm joined by Fanidh Sanogo, who is our first podcast guest. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
One of the things that sometimes I feel like, bios can be a little bit mechanical. So before we sort of dive into our conversation, I wanted to invite you to sort of introduce yourself in your own words.
Whoa. I think I like to introduce myself in the present moment. And I am Fanidh, and at the moment, what I'm doing is breathing. I'm trying to breathe. I am trying to keep my breath deep, and I'm trying to stay connected.
Thank you. I feel like that was an invitation for me to also just have a deep exhale. So thank you for that introduction. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you for being open to the invitation.
When I was doing the research for this conversation, I came across your short film that you created. Sort of, for those of you who haven't seen it, I'll maybe, if you're comfortable, I'll put the link in the description. It depicts this WhatsApp chat between anthropology students who are sort of grappling with the fact that anthropology has very deep colonial roots. And so I wanted to, really diving right in, like start there. What was it like to sort of come to this realization as somebody who I guess had decided also that anthropology is the discipline that you wanted to at least dedicate some time to, and in sort of rooting that point in time, also how the discipline has and your piece with the discipline has evolved over time since that point.
That's a big question. When I made that video, I was you can see through the chats that I was going through the most in my mind, just coming, like being new to Cape Town and also being new to living in a settler colony. I grew up in Burkina Faso and in Ghana, and in as much as there's colonization has just taken a different outlook. It's the same violences, but it manifests physically differently. So being in Cape Town and understand what anthropology requires of you. Now I don't think so anymore because I've complexified my understanding of wealth, but it's also a particular kind of rich person. And I don't want to divert too much, but the one story that comes to my mind when I think about articulating what I felt when I was doing this video is, the popular idea around blackface and, in cartoons. Do you know that I actually did not know that it was Black people until I was like 25?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Then I realized, I'm a cartoon child. I grew up watching cartoons, and sitting in my parents' living room in Ouagadougou, I just thought it was a figment of people's imagination, which it was. It really was.
Essentially, yeah.
Essentially, but I didn't think that I was the person. So it's this weird reality mismatch kind of interaction where one reality obviously has more power that matters. And then the other reality also has its own power, but it's not always as visible or it's not always as loud, but it's still existing. And I was just really going on focusing on the essence of anthropology, which is to understand difference and to really just ask everyday questions and to situate the bigger whole to the micro and to pay attention, to be present. That's what was attracting me. And realizing that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a Black woman. Okay, I'm a I'm a woman. Okay, when all along I always knew I was a human being.
Yeah.
Um, so now that and please start me if I'm taking too much time because I'm
No,
sure you have so many questions but please pace me.
sure.
And now I still have a love suspicious love relationship with anthropology um, in terms of what happens outside of me. Within me, I feel very safe and I believe in the discipline, but the structures of the discipline can be improved. That like the people that have power within the discipline and the institutions that um, kind of focus on the mandate of anthropology, it's still human beings. There are some things that aren't necessarily the best, but there's good and bad things everywhere.
That's true.
And so I don't think I'm giving up escaping the bad.
Because it's inescapable, essentially. It's like you have to go
Inescapable.
through it to get it gives the
Exactly.
good context.
And it's so powerful, actually.
Yeah.
There's so much power in transcending the bad as a label. When you actually observe it and feel it rather than quickly label it, you realize that it's just a different dimension teaching you a different lesson, teaching you different things.
Absolutely. It's I feel like I'm at a stage in my life at the moment where all of the very difficult moments, I'm seeing now how all of the very difficult moments in my life was a necessary sort of alchemization process that I needed to go through to get
Mm,
where I am today.
very beautiful
And
choice of word.
yeah, it's and now when I'm experiencing challenges and when things don't go my way because I have a plan, um just being a little bit more okay with and curious about, okay, where is this actually leading me to? What path am I not meant to be taking that I think I should be taking?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm curious about because a lot of my intellectual curiosity is now on the body. I'm
Yeah.
curious about how you experience that physically.
So, okay, I feel who's interviewing here because now I'm about to get personal. But anyway, it's going where it needs to go. But it's so interesting that you asked me that question because I have for a very long time felt like my throat was
Ah,
closed. Like I didn't feel like speaking. I didn't trust my voice. I didn't like, who am I to be saying anything? Like, is my opinion worthwhile? All of those things, you know what I mean? And on the one hand, yes, I think it is rooted in, like epigenetics and like how our ancestors have been silenced, continue to be silenced, et cetera, and how that lineage like lives in my being, lives in our being. But at the same time, it's also been necessary for me to go through a very like physical shedding.
mm.
So I have a 2-year-old son and he is obsessed with Charlie XCX. Like Brad is his favorite album
But
and he
who is
he
Charlie? I don't know who the person is.
she is a British alt pop
Ooh,
female singer.
that's cool.
Very fun, very fun,
Wow.
like an amazing night out. But she also
Dang.
delves into like really deep themes of identity and um generational trauma and,
Whoa.
being a woman in the music industry, like trying to
Nice.
find her own voice, etc., etc. Anyway, he's listened to this album so many times that I know it off by heart. And like that process of like singing has been such a powerful sort of preparation for me starting to become a host of a podcast.
Nice.
It's like actually like activating my throat and hearing my own voice was, I think, very powerful preparation for doing this and being able to articulate how I'm feeling at a particular time. So, yeah.
No, that's beautiful, Dominique. You know, when you were talking about your throat, I had goosebumps. Like I felt like you were physically here with me because
Yeah.
I feel it so deeply, so deeply. And it's the reason why I'm so curious about it is because I'm trying to break I'm trying to break this separation that happened
Mhm.
because this is what coloniality is. This is what, and you know, people like in academic circles, we tend to talk about coloniality, which is basically the propagation, almost like the vestiges of colonization, mostly mental, in terms of like almost like outside of the body, and
Mm.
also being like structured,
Systems.
big systems, big
Yeah.
structures, but
Yeah.
it it's the manifestation of imbalanced powers. And so when there's something that is um, hegemonic, something that is dominant, there's a power that is blinding or overtaking other aspects of your being, I think it is a form of coloniality and it is a
Yeah.
form of domination. And so it happens in every single body also. You know, in academia, it's important to talk about specifics and it's needed, but I don't understand why we can't do both or 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 also address like things in three different planes. So there's when you talk about states, the colonization, post-colonization of states and all of that, but then there's also, you know, race and women and all of that, but and sexuality, but there's also in the body, emotional colonization. And it's so important
Yeah.
to it's political actually it's a it's a right and it's I'm feeling it so deeply I don't even have the words, but it's an imperative that we claim our bodies back,
Yeah.
and that happens through presence. Our spirits
Absolutely.
need to sit in our bodies. We need to feel our bodies again.
Oh, like the goosebumps that I'm feeling.
I tell
That,
you, but it's crazy. We
yeah.
separate. I think this was the most important, the most effective way of um sleeping. Oh, I'm trying to translate from French. Um, sleep. Making numbing consciences,
Yes.
making conscious, like making people's consciousness asleep.
Yeah.
In French,
Yeah.
you say endormir les consciences. So this is it's also a manipulation strategy. So it's so
I
important.
I sort of another very recent experience of realizing how that colonization realizing the colonization that I put onto myself as well because of these systems, thinking about, and as for the first time in my life, I started like thinking about like all of these goals that I had and like, what are these goals? Like, whose goals are these actually? Like,
Disown your thoughts. Disown your thoughts.
really discerning for the first time, like what I actually want to be doing and how that doesn't necessarily fit into this linear path that I'd had in mind for my life. So, in thinking about that in your own life, like how have you needed to grapple with like decoloniality and coloniality essentially in your body?
Yo, it's an ongoing battle. Every breath. is a battle.
Yeah.
Every breath. I think it all comes down to accepting death
Mm.
because
Yeah.
there's so many versions of me that need to die, that have died, that are dying, and that will need to die for me to get to the freest version of the being that I want to be. And for me, I think that it all comes down to, when you inhale and you let the breath go deep down to your lungs and fill your stomach. I think for me, as a person who has been socialized to be a woman, I have a very toxic relationship with my stomach. So
Yeah.
for the longest time, I wasn't breathing into my stomach. I
Wow.
wasn't letting my stomach out. I wasn't my
Right.
stomach. Even it's crazy how this has layers because even when you think that you're letting your stomach be, there's still a kind of resistance. So it's almost like the whole architecture of your being is represented in your stomach. It's like a subconscious level that can't just don't even the conscious level has layers. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. But I think the most important is just to keep going. And I think one thing that has been um important for me on this journey is also compassion for myself because
Mm.
sometimes I have such high expectation myself that I tend to like feel disappointed when I'm not able to breathe deeply through pain or through triggers or to sometimes it's like you get mad and then you not even mad in terms of anger, sometimes it's anger, but you get transported into a different reality and you only realize it when you come back and then you're like,
Yeah.
"Ah, why did I let myself get carried away?" But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sending that email,
But
sending that text.
just want
Yeah.
I must feel it. I must feel my pain.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
yeah.
And how sometimes those like angry outbursts that like come in the form of like saying things that you shouldn't have feel like you shouldn't have said or typing or whatever, posting. It all essentially is like a little bit I'm just feeling in this moment like it's also like running away from the sensation of that fire that is like essentially activating you, activating something in you.
Exactly. It's something I'm still trying to figure out and understand better. But in my experience, and it might be different for everyone, but I'm a recovering conflict avoider.
Ooh.
Yes. And so when but it's also, I used to treat it as the devil to tackle, like I need to get over my conflict avoidance and everything. But then I realized that I also have a different way of expressing anger. I have a different relationship with anger as well. I always one of the reasons why I used to think that it was being conflict avoidant was a terrible thing, which it can be. But I had such a reduced, very limited understanding of what anger should look like and what
Okay.
anger should not look like. And so I wanted to, yeah, it's very interesting. I wanted to avoid some things, but then also in wanting to avoid a specific look of anger or manifestation of anger, I also blocked myself from exploring anger.
And getting to know your anger and how it manifests for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's been very interesting to see how what anger. I'm not even sure anger is the right word for it. It's definitely uh, like a lot of energy and desire to express. And on physical level, some burning sensations, and you can see that there's some deep resistance that kind of happens in my stomach. But when you let it move through your body, then it shifts very quickly and it becomes something else. So that anger is not even, or whatever that feeling is not really frozen
Mm.
when you let it move, or watch it move, because it moves, but watch it move.
Yeah. Yeah. I also resonate so deeply with your stomach relationship. I just my second child turned 1 yesterday. So
Congratulations
thank
to you and to the child and to your partner and to your family, everybody that's nurturing this child. Congratulations.
I need it.
Well done. Well done. I have a special respect for parents. Well done.
Wow. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
But it's been interesting to like make peace with this new body now that is a mother of two, that's like, carrying a different load than before. And I find myself like in also the decolonial inquiry internally for me, I think about like where the roots of this thinness came from and how it's so not rooted in my lineage because my ancestors didn't look like skin and bone. So, where does this desire for a specific body type come from and how deep has it like rooted inside of me and need to be rooted?
Yeah. Yeah. I think these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. To be honest, I don't know about the history of body types in this sense. So I won't be able to give you the deep um analysis on that. But I definitely know about like facial features and big lips and big noses and all of that, which I mean started from, and also skin
Yeah.
color, yeah. It's very interesting because my father always used to tell us the story of this queen in the during the Manding Empire, when the Manding Empire was thriving, and there was this queen. She was just like chilling on her balcony, and then there was this explorer who was walking. I think she saw him from his balcony, and she was like, "Oh, it's strange too. He's pale. I wonder if he's okay." Like, but then like she wasn't really. It was more like curiosity, and she didn't think, oh wow, or she didn't think, ew. She was just like, this is a strange human being. And it's interesting to have these accounts of like first encounters with,
Yeah.
and I also watch that with kids. It's
Yeah.
very interesting to see with kids how they, and when you remember also when you were a kid, um yeah, it's fascinating to be able to, and that's where the death comes in. That's the kind of death I'm talking about. Death of
Yeah.
all this sedimentation of ideas that have now turned into an identity or an
Yeah.
ego.
I know that your PhD research is sort of at the intersection between makeup and identity and sort of has the thread of, I guess, decoloniality running through it. Do you want to speak a little bit more about it? What, in your own words, what also drove you to this particular topic? And how do you feel about it now that you've come to the end of a journey with it?
Thank you. Thank you for the articulation. I think it's been an amazing journey because it's not everything that we've been talking about, it's not outside of my research. And I I put my soul into my research, and I want it to be authentic. And I want it to be, and I came to anthropology actually because I wanted to understand myself, and I wanted to understand the roots of difference because of how dangerous uh a problematic understanding of difference can be in this world. And so my research on making faces and makeup in Waga, it's been very challenging to research because you kind of have to face the way that people interact with these ideals and these internalized images of what, and you have to face the reality of it too, in if you it's very clear that if, for example, somebody wears long eyelashes on the eyelids here, there's a particular group of people you'll be associated with. If
Okay.
you have a light skin, so here in Waga, there's more of colorism than,
Okay.
which is, of course, like colorism is a manifestation of racism, but we don't necessarily, because there's not many, it wasn't a settler colony, so there's not many white people here. Like, whiteness is interpreted in a different way here.
Yeah.
So, but what was I saying? You see, when you observe face making and makeup and the identities that are attached to it, it becomes so clear and very heartbreaking the ways in which we categorize each other, and so quickly, so arbitrary. We kill people just by looking at them. And one of the interesting outcomes of the research is that we just coming to, I mean, we know this, but like clearly we don't see human beings. We just see the objects that somebody puts parts are merged with. Sorry about that. So if you
Yeah.
if if you have glasses, or I just look at codes, we see people in codes. We don't actually have the time or the energy to try discover what lies behind these codes. And so yeah.
I'm even thinking when looking at the other, but at least I'm just reflecting that in my own life, like even in looking at ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And to be honest, there's no difference
Yeah. Yeah.
because whatever is behind your eyes is in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
So if I see, and that's where the real um, sadness comes, because when I interacted with a lot of men and women and different people, and at first you have this assumption that, oh, men are sexist, men whatever, they're like, oh, but when you start to talk with them, and when you also have your own assumptions and your veils falling, you realize that nobody, like most people are actually unable to see themselves fully.
Oof.
Yeah. And I think it's because also sometimes, I mean, this is going to sound very random or not, but sometimes I feel like we forget that we have pores on our skin. We forget that we are expandable. We forget that we're big. We're so vast. We're so much more than what it's like having in my mind how I now interact, or how I try to interact with the world when I remember. Having a nose and a skin color and all ears and all of these things, they're just a version of me that is actualized through a hierarchy of values or hierarchy of powers. So when I look at myself in the mirror, the reason why I see my eyes first and my nose. The play of my attention, where my attention goes producing sight, is just one version of reality.
Yeah.
It's not what my experience of
Mhm.
myself. If I allow myself to listen to myself and to listen and to discover the being that I actually am,
Mm.
you'll be amazed
Mm.
to experience and to feel all the complexity, all the shapes
The
that you have.
vastness. The word
The
vastness
vast,
comes to mind. Yeah.
exactly. And when I think about myself, I like to imagine thin tentacles. I imagine myself as a being with thin tentacles growing out of my pores.
Mm.
And and that means that they grow out of the pores on my nose. I have large pores on my nose and I hated them for the longest time. It's ridiculous. Who even sees them? Like, so like I imagine that there's tentacles growing out all over. And then when you think about that, when you use your imagination to view yourself like that, and to
Mm.
view other people or whatever, adapt also your vision of other people based on the energy or the experience of them that you've allowed yourself to feel, then you're able to see Dominique beyond her eyes, beyond her beautiful smile, you know, beyond the necklace that you have on your neck, beyond all of that. So I think we are still at a very primitive stage of consciousness.
I am so activated by this conversation right now. Like my mind is going in 10 different directions. And it's so interesting that you've sort of brought together the consciousness and really exploring and understanding our own consciousness to the intellectual and physical process of decolonizing the self. And if, as within, so without. So as we do that internally, how is that reflected in our external environment, in the way that we see the world and interact with the world? So, I mean, the thinking behind the creation of this podcast. It was about creating spaces where, firstly, showcasing the ways that people are thinking about the world differently, thinking about the world that could be, and in big ways and small ways, actively making steps to bringing that world to a reality. And so, with that in mind, I also want to ask whether you see a point in time where decoloniality is reached, or is there an endpoint to this process? My instinct is no, but I want to hear from you.
I definitely agree with you. You know, I think I don't know much about evolution. I haven't read Charles Darwin, or I mean, it's not that he's an authority because there is a lot of um, knowledge from our countries, like older civilizations, I'm sure that have a lot to say about that. But the reason why this word comes to my mind is, is because I don't know if there's an end.
Mm.
I just think there's I just think there's momentum forever, never. It just keeps going. It shifts and it evolves. And the whole point is to evolve. But I don't know. I don't know if there's an end. I think there's points, which is why it's so important for me at least to know to be generationally self-aware. I don't know if that makes sense, but to understand the scale of my life, basically, in this bigger, infinite, forever moving whole, because that allows me to not overburden myself, but to also contribute to this big, beautiful, confusing, mesmerizing chaos that we live in. It's a
Absolutely.
playground.
It's a playground. It is such a playground. And I feel, as I am sort of coming into, a deeper knowing of myself, I mean, you've mentioned it, like consciousness and coming into deeper and deeper awareness of, of ourselves, I think is also a lifelong journey. But, in this very moment, I feel like I know myself more than I knew myself yesterday.
Mm.
And it's the one thing that I'm sort of thinking about is we're in a time in the world where it's very easy to get disheartened. It's very easy to forget that evolution will continue evolving until the end of time, and get stuck in the and pain and sadness of everything that is unfolding and coming to light at this time on the planet. I'm also just thinking about like what are some of the ways you've, grappled with this present moment in time and also allowed yourself to make peace with who you are and what you're doing in the midst of it all without being sort of overwhelmed by the negativity that's so visceral at times.
Yeah, this is a big question. But I think I'll start with the practical things. First of all, it's very, very important to curate one's consumption.
Yeah.
What one consumes through, I mean, of course, intention comes before that. It's for me, I know that I always want to operate from a place of love. And sometimes I don't like to use love because love it's an overall, it's like God, it's like it's a big word.
It's a big
What is love for me?
mm,
For me, love is listening,
mm,
and it's allowing things to reveal themselves without reducing them, things and people. So it's really opening up to the world, and the things that are the issue that I have with social media is that sometimes it puts you in a box without you even realizing it. It sneaks up on you. You're like scrolling down Instagram and you have 10 posts about, I don't know, why flowers should be pink. And you just keep scrolling and then you have other posts about, and I've learned to train my timeline to train the algorithm to reflect what I want to see. So it's great. I'm very happy on my Instagram because it just everything that I see is a reflection of the mission that I have and the things that I want to accomplish. But so there's that social media and what one consumes outside of the digital world, too, with the human beings that we encounter and the things that we encounter. It's very difficult to not let oneself taken into somebody else's dream or nightmare. I sometimes play tricks on myself and imagine that whenever I encounter someone, I imagine that they're in a screen. So I create a distance between me and them until I think or I have clues that the person can be in front of me
mm.
physically, so that now we can be in the same bubble and there's
Yeah.
no contamination. And sometimes it depends on how much the way that I feel on that day. Sometimes I don't feel strong enough to share, to have, I wish I did, but sometimes I don't feel strong enough to help someone out of their nightmare or to help myself out of my nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it depends on how I feel on that day and yeah, how strong I feel.
I know that I said that was my last question, but you left me with a thread that I just can't help but ask or pull. But what would you say? I mean, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, but what would you say your mission is? Sorry, I told you.
But no, it wasn't a bad like it was an exciting and like naughty smile.
Okay, okay,
Because
good.
my mission, my mission is to have fun.
Yes, because we only live one life.
The leaves. Oh, I wish you could see the leaves. They're dancing.
I've also got leaves here. I can see the leaves.
Dominic, every other species is having fun.
Having fun. Having fun.
Every other species is having fun. Who am I to not have fun? Please, I'm just here. I'm just here to play. I'm here to play. But
I love
the thing is
that.
that I think play is really misunderstood because I don't know why, like the Western world, or I don't know. I also hate this binary, like West versus South, but I think the dominant, the loudest cultural current has separated work from play.
Yeah.
And I want to leave you with this. You know, I come from a cultural group that y- work with the land a lot, like work the earth a lot. They cultivate, and I mean cultivate. I don't know if that's a word, that's the right word in English, but they grow things.
Yeah.
And so they used to always go to the field with their, you know, this instrument balafon. It's
I think I do.
it has the sticks and then you
Oh, like a
play.
xylophone. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, like a xylophone. They used to go to the field, and then there's someone with a xylophone playing music as they work, and it's hard work. You know, it's like really like
Yes. Physical.
rudimentary. It's not industrialized farming at all. They used to go to the
Yes.
farm with I don't know the name in English. The daba, we call it daba, with the thing, the thing, the thing that they used to. Okay, they used to do that.
Yes, yes, yes.
With the balafon, I don't know. English is a, but you understand the word, the tool,
It's only where
whatever.
you are. We understand. Yeah.
That time I've also never used it, so I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that they used to. There was no separation,
Yeah. Yeah. Life is
and
about living.
they were working hard.
Mhm.
These guys were hard workers. So my ambition in life is to, you know, when you have like a good formulation of something and then it just disappears. Yesterday I was thinking about it and now I can't remember. But a combination of work hard and play
And for working hard to be enjoyable. Working hard does not
hard.
have to be toil and misery.
It's a lie.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I love this conversation so much. Thank
Me
you.
too.
And I
I love
hope
this
that
podcast. People create
yeah, I'm hoping that after this conversation I can be removed from the screen and we can meet in person when you're back in
you
Cape
are
Town.
already here.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day. This was wonderful.
Boom.